Hello.
It's another tea time with me, T, and Michal. Hey. Okay, so at the end of last episode, if you saw or did not see it, Michal was talking about not fighting. Just don't fight. If something is fighting you, don't fight back. You do your thing, right? Basically.
Yes.
And so you had started going to like black women in particular, how they are kind of conditioned to fight and stuff like that. Yeah. You want to expand upon the point that I cut you off? Because I was like, Michal, it's another episode.
That's 25 more minutes.
It
is. So what I mean by that is, there's this stereotype that black women have to fight for what they want. Like, even like you see it now with like marches being rallied and everything, you mostly speak about black men, black children, and then it's time for black women, and black women have to do it themselves. So it's like they're like, you have to fight for yourselves. Or even when Kevin Samuels died, which is recently, and they were like, why are you celebrating his death? And they were like, we're not celebrating his death. We're just not we're not sad that he died. Right, because they were like, this whole time, this man has been speaking against us, telling us we're washed up, we're going to die alone, this and that. And then...
me, Jesus.
and then...
Not my testimony.
we had to sit here and like fend for ourselves against this man, and now that he's gone, you want us to be sad for him.
Right.
And that's not our truth. We're not fighting about that any longer. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I'm not going to say I don't worry anymore, but I kind of I don't let anything stress me.
Yeah. That's
out of my control.
I feel you.
Especially other people's opinions. At this point, it's like, I can't change what you feel. I'm going to keep living me. I'm going to keep doing me.
Yeah. And
I'm just going to live my life the way I want to. And if you have a problem with that, that seems like you're fighting against yourself. I don't fight.
I don't fight. I will say, I've said it in another one, I'm going to say it right here. I think two truths can exist. And I do think that there is something to be said for like, I'm not fighting you, fight your mama. But then I think that there are some things, I'll go to war about it. So I think that there is space.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean.
There is space for both, because I feel like, specifically, we talking about this in the context of like black womanhood, basically, mm-hmm. right? And like I said, at some point, I follow a lot of radical black women pastors and like younger ones, well, older than us, mm-hmm. but young when it comes to pastors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they talk a lot about, I rebuke a life of struggle. I rebuke that God wants me to sit here and fight when he has given me such a life of abundance and ease, and I'm just going to slip into the frequency of it and just let it be. And I fuck with that. I really do. But I also think that if you recondition, because I think we've been conditioned as black women to think struggle, fight, right? Excuse me. But I think if you recondition like a whole nother generation of black women and expect, it's supposed to be easy for me, it's supposed to be abundant for me, then you're not
there's a balance
perfectly preparing them for all that they're going to find in their life. Because some things, let's not get it confused, Jesus had to do his own work. Like he had tasks.
I didn't say don't work for it. I just said don't fight.
But I do think, it was a fight. He did fight in certain shapes, forms, and fashions. And I think that certain things you are going to have to do, especially if you're in spaces that are trying to fight you. There are certain things, like I've had professors where it's always a fight. There's something about young black woman who got a good sense of self and shows up in the room looking like me, that they're just like, war. And there are some days where I'm like, I don't have nothing for you. I'm not going to sit here and fight with you because you ain't and I'm not going to do it. But then there are other days where I know, he was my African professor, and he was talking about like African Americans, and he was like, I forgot what he said, but he was like, African Americans don't do such and such. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to stop you right there, because that's not true. And if I don't fight, you're going to teach every person who's in this room. Mm-hmm. And I was the only African American person in the room, I think. There were some other black people, but nobody else was African American. You're going to teach them these things that you learned that are stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And I have to fight in that shape, form. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's more of informing. Like, my definition of fight is, like, hurting, because, like, when you're in a real fight and you're punching someone,
it hurts you.
You hurt your own hand.
But I do think that in those spaces, I think there is a difference between informing and fighting. I think I do have to fight. Because they'll go back and forth. And because we're in a space that has taught them, this is my space. I own this. I run this. Yeah. And you're welcome for me allowing you to be in the presence of me while I do the thing that I do. Mm-hmm. I have to fight with you.
That makes sense.
In order to be like, wait a minute, I have to fight people in my program because I want to do things that they feel like, oh, that's not rigorous, or oh, which is, oh, that's a cold word right there. If you keep going in higher education, the word rigor and rigorous and critical will come in so many spaces for just meaning that's not how we do things.
It's rigorous today.
Yeah, and it's wild.
It's critical to me.
But I do think that there are things that you're going to have to, that you are going to have to fight for. But I do think you're right that I think you have to look inside of yourself and say, do I have it in me to fight this fight? And what am I actually fighting, and what am I fighting for?
Yeah.
And make sure that is it worth it? Yeah. And that's the thing, is I think a lot of people are fighting things that isn't worth it. Yeah. That they were taught they're supposed to fight. Mm-hmm. And supposed to fight for and fight against.
Like the good grade. Yeah.
I was like grades and like achievement.
Yeah.
Because we were taught that.
For the good grade, fight for your good education.
Oh.
Basically.
Oh.
Like, I'm not fighting you over this stupid email. If you think, and first of all, okay, this is off topic, but what made me mad is you kept spelling my name wrong.
Yeah.
And like my last email to him was, if you're gonna if you're gonna argue against me about what is correct English and grammar, at least spell my name right, because I spelled it right twice, and you still haven't looked at it. So something you were looking for something, to fight against, to be against, and you still didn't really answer my question for your class. So it's like, what are you here for? What are you doing this for?
And why would I fight you if you don't even have the sense of self to be consider it? I feel you.
So like so I didn't fight for him. I didn't fight for he's right.
Yeah.
I thought that you're trying so hard to be right, you're putting me down.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna fight you for this good grade.
Right. 100%.
I'm gonna drop. 100%. It'll be a W today.
See? And I still have to
a win. In my books.
I'm gonna get a D and a W because... But no, I feel you. And what's crazy is I am just like a couple years older. I'm 24, she's 20. And so I've been in classes. I have considered dropping like one class pretty much in my life, and it was so it felt like an indictment of myself. Like, oh, I'm not strong enough to do this. I'm not smart enough. Like, and it wasn't that I couldn't do the work. It's that I felt like the professor was just like fighting me all the time, and I'm like, why I got to fight you to work? Like, what sense does that make? I have to work. Come on now. And I just hated it. And what else was another reason I was going to drop it? I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get an A in this class. Mm-hmm. And that's going to make it so that I don't have a 4.0, which is going to mean I'm not going to get like a magna cum laude. And like all these things that don't actually, first off, so I did all that. I was going to war. And I was like, I'm going to drop this class because she's going to mess up my A and da-da-da-da-da. And thank God I had someone who was like an advisor, and she was like, why are you trying to drop this class? I was like, I don't think I'm going to get an A. And she was like, first off, you're in graduate school. Nobody's that worried about whether or not you're getting an A or anything. She was like, I'm going to talk to the professor. And the professor came back and was like, listen, you're going to get an A if you do the work. Stay in the class. And I'm like, okay, fine. Right? So did all that, stayed in the class, got the A, got to graduation. First off, COVID had hit. So I don't even have an in-person graduation. So what I have been driving myself for, to sit in those seats, to be in that area, to have my family clap, all this stuff that I had put my validation on wasn't there. They pronounced my name wrong and then never said anything about my cum laude because no one gives a damn when you're getting your master's. So I had just fought And it was not.
And there was no finish line.
It was so empty. It was so empty. And
there was a banner that said finish, but no line.
Listen, and finish was spelled wrong.
You got here.
Yeah. Wasn't no parades and no bitches come out, didn't no birds fly. like nothing. So that is a huge point of the things that like, and it just, you feel it. You feel like you're fighting so deeply for it. And what I think it does produce as well is a whole bunch of people whose lives aren't balanced. Mm-hmm. Right? Be that in work, be that in academic settings, friendships, families, whatever. Because even in relationships, black women are tied to ride or die.
I'd rather die.
I don't want to do neither. Till Jesus says it's my time.
You said getting where? I'm not doing it. Because when they say ride or die, they only mean for them. They don't mean for yourself. And so they're like, come with me. Like, come with me to do this thing. We're going to lift me up. Blah, blah, blah. Why am I still on the ground then? You said ride. I should be up there with you. Like I'm dying anyway. But
this is what they're trying to trick us.
Yeah.
They're trying to trick us because they think this is what they want you to do. When they're like, let's lift together. Yeah. And it's like, no, you want to rise and you're stepping on me.
Yeah.
And this is not to be man-hating. This is to say that like the way that we train women to be in relationships is self-deprecating and is like destructive. You know, I forgot what I was reading, but it was talking about women who are asked what they bring to the table. And she's like, don't listen. If you asking me about a table, I don't want to sit at it. Because if you're asking me what I'm bringing, that means there's something there I don't want at that table.
Or you have nothing. And you want me to bring everything.
Listen, you don't even have a table. That's what bothers me. Is you don't
bring it to the table. You live in your mama house.
Oh.
I do too. But at least I'm not asking you what you bring to my table.
That's real. That is real. And, you know, a whole conversation will probably erupt about all the unreasonable things that women ask for. But let's keep in mind, too, that women ask for the things they ask for because of the conditions that history has put them in. Yeah, right? Like, women are gold diggers. Okay, that's because you taught them for most of human history that they didn't actually have access to their own resources and that they are experiencing.
That you were supposed to
that your job is to house and protect them. They're like,
you can't expect women to still do their role in society and then you give up yours.
Yeah, so but you taught us that.
Yeah.
And then you're mad when we're looking for it. And that's odd. That is odd. Because women didn't make that up. Women did not look at each other and they said, you know what? Like, let's take all his money. Let's ask for his money because I need someone who's going to take care of me. And like, no, what happened was men was like, oh, we're going to take care of you if you could just shut up and give us punani. And like, we were like, wait, okay. And obviously different like societies in history have like acted differently and stuff. But like, that's another thing. I'm tired of fighting these niggas. And when I say niggas, I do not just mean black men. I don't at all. I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not gonna do it. I watched somebody's probably TikTok and she was like, I stay in a relationship long after I feel like I need to leave because by the time this thing really breaks, I'll be emotionally done. I am bad, like guilty of that to the end. Because I'll be like fighting for this thing. I'm like, oh, I need, like, this is mine. And then I'll feel like, no, it ain't. This ain't mine. But I'll stay in it until like I get to a point where I'm like, okay. And then he'll do something and it'll just be done and it'll be dissolved. Because I'm like, I'm not going to fight you. Once I find out that this isn't for me, that this isn't mine, I will fight for what is mine. To a certain extent. Because I do think, you know, even trying to get into this degree and in this program, there was a certain level of fighting and there was also a certain level of ease. I think what is for you has kind of both elements in certain ways. And you can feel when things start feeling imbalanced. You're like, that's not for me. I shouldn't have to feel. If my spirit is being compromised, something's wrong. Yeah. Now, I can be tired. I can be weary. I could be hungry, confused, upset. Like, those all can happen, I think, having something that's still yours, right? Mm-hmm. But if my spirit feels at ease, something's off. Something wrong, and you can keep it. I don't like it. So that's where I think I mostly connect to you being like, I'm not going to fight. I ain't gonna fight you.
I'm not gonna fight you.
Not at all.
I've just seen so many relationships in which people fought. I've seen both men and women try to fight for a relationship, and it just didn't work. It didn't work out, and they ended up being like they were fighting themselves because the other person was gone. And so, and instead of fighting themselves with, okay, let's break this off, they were fighting themselves with, let's figure out another way let's figure out another way to get them back.
Yeah.
And it's like that, you could see them, like, them not just mentally breaking down, but them physically breaking down.
Right.
Like, their bodies were not the same.
Right.
And as soon as they realized, look what I'm doing to myself, and they stop, then you can see them coming back.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want that for myself. 100%. I don't want that for myself.
No, I agree, because what you fight in the spiritual, the emotional, the ethereal, the ephemeral, you end up showing in the physical. Mm-hmm. And I think it happens, right? Because it's the same thing of being like, oh, your mental health matters. That's another thing for Black women. Black women are taught that their mental health doesn't matter, that it doesn't even really exist, that your joy in life is supposed to be derived by how you serve other people. And don't get me wrong, I think life is service-based. I think life is how you serve and how you are served. And I feel like we were only taught the first part and not the latter.
Yeah.
And so we don't ask for our churches to make sure that they're serving us and serving all of us. 70% of like church congregations are Black women, but yet Black women are made to feel bad about being single moms, about having children out of wedlock, about, having different gender representations, having different sexualities, not allowed in the pulpit consistently, all kinds of stuff. And you're like, wait a minute, there's this institution that Black women will serve a church, child.
With looks,
food, like
everything,
white gloves present, like, and will not be served in those spaces, academic spaces, educational spaces. Like, there's so many places with relationships. There's so many places where Black women are asked to serve and asked to die. I think that's what it is too, is don't die on the line. I'm not willing to die on the line for nothing. I mean, my little brother, I would die for my little brother. Now, what was he doing though? Right? I'm not, but everything else is like, why am I, I feel like even for my mom, watching her, there were certain spaces where she kind of had to fight for, like, I think her womanhood separate from her motherhood, right? Because I think she was taught that that's what a mom does, is she's there and she gives to her kids, and her life is her kids and her identity is her kids. And that's what her job is. I think the difference though between my mom's generation and her mom's generation is her mom's generation was taught, and you stay in the home and you keep your husband, and you make sure that even if your husband is mistreating you, abusing you, selling drugs, doing whatever he's doing, he can act a plumb fool, have a husband on the other side of town. Like, both of my grandfathers was Rolling Stone, right? In some shape, form, or fashion. And their women stayed with them.
Right. And
I feel like that's what they did. And then I think our moms were kind of like, wait a minute, I'm gonna leave. I might not leave immediately, but I'd rather be by myself.
Well, I think also it's not even they think that. I think we think more of, well, I'll leave. And they thought more of, I'll fight for as long as I can.
Maybe.
So I think
my mom's patience is bad though. So I think our moms are a little different on that. But I think that I'm going to say that generation as a whole, then, rather than just our moms in particular.
Yeah. They were taught, fight for as long as you can.
But if I have to choose between being, my mom always says like this: if I have to choose between you and taking care of my kids, then I'm going to choose my kids and I'm going to leave you, right? So I think that is the difference. I do think it has probably swung too hard in our generation, where I'm like, I'm not even going to jump in, because Before I even have to leave you.
Why am I tired before I even met you?
Before
I shouldn't be tired.
I found myself on the way even to the first date where I was like, I don't want to fight
it's
with
social
you.
media.
It's
social media. You see more. You just see it more.
You see all the calamities.
Because at first you could pretend, you
right.
know.
Movies made us think that things were going to be okay. And then social media was like,
You were like, he could be different. And now we know he's not.
I'm not going to say we know. Because I didn't want to be different.
But you could assume.
And it does.
That's
a whole episode and it's on us how like social media makes us like the ills and the like games of social media. We're not going to do that in this one. But but it is, which is so funny, I think, because we started this conversation about like fighting and everything. But you have to fight so much in this life. But I do think that there are battles that are not. You got to know, in my moral of the story, if we're at that part of the episode, you got to know what battles have your name on them. And not have your name on them because somebody white or powerful or male or whatever, or your mama or your daddy or your church put your name on them. Which battles did God put your name on? Because I do think that there are certain things in this life God's assigned to me. And I have fought them. And will fight them. And had a righteous anger about them and went to war for them with them. Somebody come for her, God put my name on that one too. Right, so check us if you want. But
go ahead. Put in the comments below.
Or not.
I'm sorry, I don't fight.
She don't fight, but she will argue.
I will argue. I will not fight.
I don't argue, but I will fight.
I mean, if I have to, I will. I don't. So I've never gotten into a fight. I don't want to start now.
She don't fight. I fight. She argue. I don't. As a team,
as you can, I'll argue, and then as soon as she's like, "That's too long."
So all that to say, my moral of the story is you got to figure out which battles have your name on them, and you fight those in the way that serves you best. That's my moral. What's your moral, boo?
My moral is that there's balance between everything. So find your balance. So I know where to fight, and like you said, like there's something that are for you to fight, and there's something that's going to just take all of you, and you have to find your balance. And there's going to be a point where you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't have fought this one. Stop. Don't keep going then. Like don't think because you're in a fight you have to keep going. So
okay, gospel. Not a lesson.
That's the moral.
Bye, y'all.